There are just too many signals coming out of Costa Mesa to treat this like a normal news rundown. The tight end room has become Mike McDaniel's laboratory. The offensive line has a developmental giant hiding right in front of everyone. The defense is already watching a rookie who has to replace real production. And Justin Herbert is back in the middle of the kind of disrespect that only gets loud when Los Angeles answers on the field. So stay with me, subscribe to the channel, because today we're reading the room from behind the scenes. Who earns space? Who changes the plan? And who can make the AFC look at the Chargers differently? The most interesting part of this tight end room is not that there is no clear answer. It's actually the opposite. When nobody can say for sure whether Charlie Kolar, David Njoku, or Oronde Gadsden II is going to control the group, that might tell us a lot about the kind of offense the Chargers are quietly trying to build. Eric Smith, on the team's official site, framed it in a really important way. Los Angeles probably is not going to have one tight end taking over the room the way Antonio Gates once did. And yeah, that hits every Chargers fan right in the memory, because Gates was identity, security, and that target everybody in the stadium knew Herbert would love to have in big moments. But this roster is being built with a different logic. Less dependence on one face, more layers, more combinations, more stress for a defense before the ball is even snapped. Kolar enters this conversation because of the contract and the profile. 3 years, $24.3 million, $17 million guaranteed. When the front office puts that kind of money into a tight end known for blocking, it is not doing that just to bury him at the bottom of the depth chart. He can be the piece that gives structure to the run game, helps sell play action, and keeps heavy formations on the field without telling the defense if run or pass is coming. That kind of player does not always show up in the highlight, but he absolutely shows up in the game plan. But this is where the behind-the-scenes layer gets really interesting. Kolar has never cleared 15 targets in any of his first 4 seasons with the Ravens. Some of that has a fair explanation because he was sitting behind Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. But for the Chargers, that gap creates a real internal question. If Kolar is the trusted blocker, who becomes the problem in space? That is where Njoku and Gadsden change the read. Njoku has the resume, the frame, the athleticism, and years of production in Cleveland. He gives McDaniel a more proven option to move around the formation. Gadsden, on the other hand, brings that future energy, an explosive rookie flash, a late-season wall, but a receiving ceiling that still creates real curiosity inside the building. So maybe the right question is not who leads. Maybe it is who leads against which opponent. One week, Kolar can be the physical key. The next, Njoku can attack linebackers. Another week, Gadsden can be the matchup that changes third down. That does not feel like confusion. It feels like an offense trying to hide the answer until Sunday. The second signal comes from the offensive line, and it has a totally different kind of energy. Travis Burke is not arriving in Los Angeles as a headline name. He is arriving as one of those behind-the-scenes bets that can look quiet in July and become extremely important once the season starts testing depth. Burke's path matters. Born in Florida on January 6, 2003, he played at South Broward, where his own father coached him on the offensive line. His father had played college football too, so this was not some random position switch built only on size. Football was around him early. Technique, toughness, daily standards, family pressure. And Burke also played baseball, which adds another piece to the athletic background. Even with COVID shortening his senior year, Burke still came out as a 3-star recruit, then chose the FCS route at Gardner-Webb. He redshirted in 2021, then started all 13 games in 2022, with 8 starts at left tackle and 5 at right tackle. That versatility followed him to FIU, where he started 22 games across 2023 and 2024, then to Memphis in 2025, where he started 11 games and missed only 2 because of injury. And this is where the Chargers angle gets interesting. Burke is 6'9", 330 pounds. That is not normal depth. That is a developmental body type with real tools. Lance Zierlein pointed to his drive blocking talent, leverage, hand placement, flexible lower body, and aggression finishing blocks, while also noting the short area quickness concerns. So the profile is pretty clear. There is upside, but there is still work. Los Angeles believed enough to move up 6 spots and draft him in the 4th round at pick 117. That matters. Teams do not move up for a player they see as just a camp body. Burke also brings strong 2025 numbers, an 84.5 PFF overall grade, 81.5 in pass blocking, and 84.2 in run blocking. And the measurable comparison to Joe Alt? That is not saying he is Joe Alt, but it does tell you the frame is rare. Contract-wise, he is on a 4-year deal worth $5.54 million, with a $1.16 million signing bonus and the same amount guaranteed. For 2026, he is expected to sit 4th in the tackle pecking order behind Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, and Trey Pipkins 3rd. That is a perfect developmental spot. No panic, no forced timeline, just a massive young tackle learning behind serious NFL talent. And if the Chargers get that kind of pick right, that is how a roster quietly gets stronger before the rest of the league notices. The conversation now leaves the offensive lab and moves to a much rougher part of the building, the defense watching Akheem Mesidor and trying to figure out how much of this rookie can already be used for real snaps. The behind-the-scenes part matters here because the need did not come from a clean spreadsheet. It came when Khalil Mack went down in Week 4. The depth behind him in Tuli Tuipulotu could not carry enough impact, and Los Angeles had to go get Odafe Oweh during the season to stabilize the pass rush. Oweh worked. That matters. In 12 games for the Chargers, he produced 7.5 sacks and helped give the pass rush some real weight. Then the market hit. Washington put 4 years and $96 million on the table, and matching that was not a realistic conversation for the Chargers. So pick 22 in the 2026 draft became more than a talent selection. It became a required answer. Mesidor did not arrive just to learn slowly. He arrived because there is a production hole that has to be attacked early. Of course, an offseason without pads does not reveal everything. Coordinators repeat that for a reason. Offensive and defensive linemen only show the full truth when the contact gets real. Still, some signals show up before the hitting starts. Chris Rim of ESPN reported that coaches and players praised Mesidor's quickness and maturity. To some people, that sounds like a July detail. To anyone tracking the inside of a roster, that is the kind of line that tells you whether a rookie is entering the building like a guest or like a pro. Tuli's comment stands out too. He noticed Mesidor arriving early, going through his routine, not missing that preparation. That does not turn into a sack by itself, I know. But inside a defense trying to build an identity with Chris O'Leary, those habits decide who earns trust in real situations. A coach does not put a rookie into a meaningful snap just because he was drafted high. He does it when he believes the player understands the daily standard, and Mesidor has the production to support the bet. In his final season at Miami, he had 12.5 sacks, 63 combined tackles, and 17.5 tackles for loss. He also brings the versatility to slide inside when needed, and that can be huge. Because if O'Leary can move Mesidor around, along with Tuli, in different packages, the defense does not get trapped in a predictable edge-only pressure plan. Is there risk? Yes. He enters the league older than a lot of first-round rookies, and part of his college production came on a line where Reuben Bain Jr. drew attention. But the Chargers did not draft a raw project. They drafted maturity, ready-made strength, and a chance to replace an expensive departure without wrecking the salary structure. Bolt Crew, I want your read in the comments. Does Mesidor need to be an impact starter in year 1? Or should the Chargers use him in aggressive packages until he takes over? Because if he speeds up fast, this defense gets something it lacked when the depth was tested, an immediate answer. The final story has that classic feel of fuel getting pinned inside the locker room, even if nobody with the Chargers has to say it out loud. Justin Herbert outside the top 60 on an offseason list, landing at number 63 in Pete Prisco's CBS ranking, is the kind of thing that looks like July content until you remember the full context. Because Herbert is not being judged in a vacuum. He is coming off a season people called down, but he still completed 66.4% of his passes, threw 26 touchdowns, had 13 interceptions, and evolved as a runner with 498 rushing yards and 2 scores. That came with a bad offensive line, a stuck offense, and a Greg Roman system plenty of people in Los Angeles want to forget fast. So when Herbert is placed behind names like Drake May, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, and Dak Prescott, the question is not only whether the list was harsh, the question is, are they judging the quarterback, or are they judging the noise this organization still has not made in the playoffs? That is where the real backstage layer comes in. Herbert is quiet. The franchise is quiet too. The Chargers do not live off national chaos. They do not push a narrative every day, and they do not have that attention machine that turns every practice into a headline. Herbert already has a 5,000-yard season, Pro Bowls, and elite talent recognized by people who actually watch. But in the NFL, if talent does not become January wins, public respect gets unstable. It shows up when it is convenient. It disappears when the list needs debate. Maybe that disrespect arrives at the perfect moment. Mike McDaniel is not just showing up to swap a few calls. The note that Herbert has been working on his footwork, combined with the overhaul of the pieces around him, points to an attempt to rebuild the rhythm of the offense from the inside. Less suffering on third down, less hero ball, more space, more motion, more easy answers, more plays that let the quarterback operate before the defense closes the window. If that works, Herbert's jump on these lists could be ridiculous. Not because he magically became a different player, but because the environment may finally start matching the talent. That is the part the AFC needs to monitor. A Herbert with better protection, versatile tight ends, a modern offensive design, and freedom to attack with his arm and his legs is not quarterback number 63. That is a weekly problem. So yeah, the ranking is annoying, but maybe it is useful. Because every time someone tries to place Herbert on a lower shelf, the Chargers' response gets clearer. Stop asking for recognition too early and force the league to hand over that respect after the big games. When this all ties together, today's script is not just 4 stories. It is a team trying to hide answers before camp, test offensive combinations, develop a massive tackle behind proven starters, speed up a young defender because the lost production was real, and push Justin Herbert into a season where respect cannot depend on any list. Kolar, Njoku, and Gadsden show variety. Burke shows the long game. Mesidor shows urgency. Herbert shows why all of it matters. Los Angeles does not need to win July arguments. It needs to build a team that makes those arguments look small in January. If you want this read every day, subscribe, hit the like button, and stay right here. Bolt up.